My name is Margaret Chen, and I'm 72 years old. I've lived in my 3-story Victorian home in Portland for 47 years. My husband Robert passed away 8 years ago, leaving me with memories tucked into every corner of this old house. Last Tuesday, decided it was time to hire some help. The stairs were getting harder to climb, and dust had begun settling in places I could no longer reach. That's when I called Riverside Cleaning Services and asked them to send someone over. They sent me Diana Wells, a woman in her late 60s with kind eyes and silver-streaked hair pulled back in a neat bun. She wore simple clothes and comfortable shoes, and when she shook my hand, her grip was firm and warm. "Mrs. Chen," she said softly, "I'll take good care of your home." I showed her around the first floor, explaining where I kept the cleaning supplies and which rooms needed the most attention. Then I settled into my favorite armchair in the living room with a cup of tea and my book. An hour passed peacefully. I could hear Diana moving about upstairs, the gentle sounds of her work a comforting rhythm in the quiet house. Then my phone rang. "Mrs. Chen?" It was Diana's voice, but something was different. She was whispering, and I could hear a tremor of fear beneath her words. "Is anyone else supposed to be in the house?" My heart skipped. "No," I said, standing up slowly. "Why? What's wrong?" "There's a woman upstairs," Diana whispered. "On the 3rd floor. I can hear her moving around up there." The 3rd floor. My breath caught in my throat. I hadn't been up to the 3rd floor in 3 years. Not since I'd locked the door at the top of those stairs and put the key away in my jewelry box. "Diana," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, "come down to the living room right now. Don't go near the 3rd floor." She appeared. Moments later, her face pale, clutching her cleaning supplies like a shield. Should I call the police? I looked at this woman, this stranger who had walked into my home just hours ago, and I made a decision. Sometimes kindness means sharing the truth, even when it's complicated. "Sit down," I said gently. "Let me tell you a story." Diana sat on the edge of the sofa, watching me carefully. I took a slow breath and began. 49 years ago, I met Robert Chen at a hospital charity event. I was a nurse. He was a young architect, brilliant and ambitious. We fell in love quickly, the way young people do, with our whole hearts and no questions asked. I paused, remembering Robert's smile, the way he'd bring me flowers every Friday. We got married within a year. He designed this house for us himself, 3 stories, with big windows to let in the light. We were going to fill it with children and laughter. Diana nodded, her expression softening. But the children never came. We tried for years. Eventually, we accepted that it would be just the 2 of us. And that was enough. Or so I thought. I walked to the window and looked out at the garden Robert had planted. 25 years into our marriage, I noticed changes. Robert started working late more often. He became distant. There were phone calls he'd take in another room. Classic signs, I suppose, but I didn't want to see them. "Oh, Margaret," Diana said softly. "One evening, I came home early from my shift at the hospital. I found a woman's earring on our bedroom floor. It wasn't mine." The memory still stung, even after all these years. I confronted him that night. He denied everything at first, but I kept pushing. Finally, he broke down and confessed. Her name was Helena. She worked at his firm. She was 32 years old, pregnant with his child. Diana's hand went to her mouth. I felt like my world had shattered. 25 years of marriage, of trust, of building a life together, and he destroyed it. But here's the thing about betrayal that nobody tells you. It doesn't just break your heart. It changes who you are. I returned to my chair and sat down slowly. I could have divorced him. Many women would have. But I found myself thinking about that child, that innocent baby who didn't ask to be born into this mess. And I thought about Helena, who was young and probably scared. "What did you do?" Diana asked. "I made Robert a deal. He could continue supporting Helena and the baby financially, but he would never see them. He would stay married to me, and we would never speak of this again. And Helena and her daughter would live on our 3rd floor. Diana's eyes widened. "Here, in this house?" "Yes." Robert converted the entire 3rd floor into a separate apartment with its own entrance from the back of the house. Helena moved in when she was 7 months pregnant. She gave birth to a baby girl she named Sophie. I smiled at the memory. Despite everything, for 23 years, Helena and Sophie lived upstairs. Robert kept his promise. He never went up there, never saw his daughter. But I did. You visited them? Diana asked, clearly stunned. Every single day. At first, it was just to make sure they had what they needed. Helena was ashamed, broken by what she'd done. She cried a lot in those early months, but slowly, something unexpected happened. We became friends. I could see the confusion on Diana's face. I know it sounds strange. She was the other woman, the one who'd betrayed me, but she was also alone and frightened. And that baby, Sophie, she was innocent. She had Robert's eyes. So you helped raise her, Diana said slowly. In a way, I taught Helena how to care for a newborn. I read Sophie bedtime stories. I helped her with her homework. I watched her grow from a baby into a beautiful, kind young woman. She called me Aunt Margaret. Tears pricked my eyes. Robert never knew. He sent money up through an account, but he kept his distance like I'd asked. And Helena never told Sophie that I was her father's wife. Sophie thought I was just a kind neighbor who lived downstairs. That must have been so hard, Diana whispered. It was the hardest thing I've ever done, but it was also the most meaningful. You see, I'd learned something important. Revenge doesn't heal betrayal. Kindness does. Not kindness to Robert. He lived with his guilt every day. But kindness to Helena and Sophie. They needed someone, and I chose to be that person. I paused, gathering myself for the next part. 8 years ago, Robert had a heart attack. He died in our bedroom, with me holding his hand. At the funeral, Helena and Sophie sat in the back row. Most people thought they were distant relatives. Only the three of us knew the truth. And they still live upstairs? Diana asked. No. Sophie is 31 now. She went to college, became a teacher. She got married 3 years ago to a wonderful man named David. They live across town with their 2 children. Then who? Diana started. Helena. She's still up there. After Sophie moved out, I told her she could stay as long as she wanted. This is her home too. She's 70 now, with arthritis and a bad heart. She doesn't come down the stairs much anymore. I stood up and walked to the staircase. 3 years ago, I locked that door because I thought it would be easier. Helena has her own entrance, and we mostly text now instead of visiting. But she's still there, still part of this house, still part of my life. Diana was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "That's the most extraordinary thing I've ever heard." Is it? I asked. I think it's just life. Messy and complicated and not at all what you planned for. Robert betrayed me, yes. But if I'd let that betrayal turn me bitter, I would have missed knowing Sophie. I would have missed Helena's friendship. I would have missed learning that forgiveness isn't about letting someone off the hook. It's about freeing yourself from the weight of hatred. Diana stood up and walked over to me. She took my hands in hers. "Margaret," she said gently, "you're one of the wisest people I've ever met." I squeezed her hands. "Would you like to meet her, Helena?" Diana nodded. Together, we went to my bedroom. I opened my jewelry box and took out the small brass key I'd hidden away 3 years ago. We climbed the stairs slowly, Diana supporting my arm. At the top, I unlocked the door. Helena was sitting by her window, reading. She looked up when we entered, her face breaking into a surprised smile. "Margaret, I didn't expect you today, Helena," I said warmly. "I'd like you to meet Diana. She's been helping me with the house." Helena stood carefully, and the 2 women shook hands. "It's nice to meet you," Helena said. "Margaret has been telling me she needed help. These old houses are too much for us old ladies to manage alone." We talked for over an hour. Diana asked Helena about Sophie, and Helena's face lit up as she showed us pictures of her grandchildren. On her phone, she told stories about Sophie's childhood, about the little apartment upstairs and how Margaret had been there for every scraped knee and bad dream. Later, as Diana and I walked back downstairs, she said, "I understand now. This isn't a story about betrayal. It's a story about choosing love over hatred." "Both," I corrected gently. "It's both. The betrayal happened, The pain was real, but what we do with that pain, that's what defines us. Diana finished her cleaning that day, but before she left, she hugged me tightly. "Thank you," she whispered, "for trusting me with your story, for showing me that there are different ways to be strong. Come back next week," I told her, "and maybe you can help me bake something. Helena loves my chocolate chip cookies, but my hands shake too much to mix the dough anymore." Diana smiled. "I'd be honored." After she left, I sat in my living room as the afternoon light faded. I thought about Robert, about the love we'd shared, and the trust he'd broken. I thought about Helena, about how fear and loneliness had led her to make terrible choices. I thought about Sophie, innocent and beautiful, carrying both her parents' mistakes and their possibilities forward into the world. And I thought about myself, about the woman I'd been 49 years ago and the woman I'd become. The betrayal could have destroyed me. Instead, I'd let it transform me. That's the wisdom I've earned from 7 decades of living. Life will break your heart in ways you never expect. People you love will disappoint you. Situations will arise that have no good answers, but you always have a choice. You can let the pain make you bitter, or you can let it make you better. You can build walls, or you can build bridges. You can seek revenge, or you can create something unexpected and beautiful from the broken pieces. I chose kindness, not because it was easy, but because it was right. And now, in the twilight of my life, I live in a house with memories in every corner. Some of those memories hurt, but many of them are filled with the unexpected gift of love I found when I stopped demanding that life look the way I'd planned. Helena is upstairs. Sophie visits every Sunday with the grandchildren. Diana will come back next Tuesday. And I am here, an old woman in an old house, content with the choices I made and the life I've lived. That woman upstairs isn't an intruder or an enemy. She's family, the kind you don't choose but learn to love anyway. And that, I've discovered, is what life is really about.